Hi everyone, it's Ardith, and today is release day at ellenhudson.com. We've got a new Mondo flower, an adorable new critter, and some fabulous new sentiments. As I was making my projects for the release, I found myself drawn back to the same simple background technique over and over, so this video is really about that. And along the way, you'll get a good look at all the new goodies as well. Here's the easiest one. I chose some fall colors, yellows, oranges, and reds, and I simply drew horizontal lines through my white panel. 2 of each color, working from darkest to lightest. I do have some tips along the way, and the first one is this. I find it easiest to keep my lines straight by moving my whole arm down the length of the panel, rather than just trying to move my hand. If you want really straight lines, of course you can use a ruler, but I like the slightly wonky homemade feel of my lines. For this card, I used the amazing sentiment from Totally Random Sayings Volume 3, and I curved it onto a circle acrylic block. I stamped it 4 times to create a kind of word wreath, and then I popped up a leaf from Mondo Chrysanthemum in the center. This leaf was colored with the same markers I used on my background. The next technique is to create a kind of plaid. This time I chose 5 rich fall colors, including a deep purple, and I started with the vertical lines. You don't have to keep the colors in the same order each time you use them, but if you want to, I found an easy way to do it. And it's to pick up the one closest to me, and then when I'm done, place it to the far left. Then I pick up the next marker and I do the same. As long as I do this, the markers will be in the same order and my colors will be evenly spread across the panel. Now you can see the plaid coming together and how easy this really is. I always make sure that the edge of the panel is covered with color. I just find this looks better than having white spots on the edges. For this card, I colored the Mondo Chrysanthemum in matching Copics, and then I die cut it with the coordinating die. I spread Nouveau Glimmer Paste and Moonstone all over the top for some sparkle. I trimmed the plaid panel with one of the landscape dies to create white space for another sentiment from Totally Random Sayings Volume 3. And here's another multicolored plaid. This time I used a really bright, happy rainbow of colors. I added one of the little Squatch guys with a previously released speech bubble over top, and yet another sentiment from Totally Random Sayings Volume 3. This card really keeps a lot of the focus on that happy background. Next, I went for a more monochrome look. I chose 3 markers from the BG70 color family, and I followed the same process. This time I didn't worry about keeping the markers in the correct order, since they're all going to kind of look the same in the end. It's important to make sure your markers are quite juicy. I discovered quite a few in my collection that needed to be refilled throughout this process. For this card, I stamped, colored, and die cut the trees from Little Squatch, and I popped them up on a white panel that I had cut with the landscapes die. I added one of the sentiments that comes with the set, and now this is a fun, masculine encouragement card. For the next card, I also used a monochrome look, this time gray on white. But I also used the narrow side of the chisel tip end of the marker, rather than the broad side as I did in the previous examples. I also played a bit with spacing between my lines to give it a more random, irregular look. I'm left-handed, so I work left to right, and I end up turning the panel when I get to the far right side, since I'm more comfortable working on the left. If you're right-handed, you'll likely work the opposite way. I turned the panel for the horizontal side, and I used similar groupings of 2 or 3 lines before leaving a bigger white space, and I love the look of this. This card has the other little Squatch sitting in a masked forest of his trees. This time all the color is on him and his little mushroom to keep the focus on him. The gray trees and the gray background plaid don't detract from him at all. I used one of the hilarious sentiments from the new Voices in My Head Volume 2 set. It's perfect for this little furry guy. Next up, I used the same process, but this time I went really tone on tone. Gray marker on gray cardstock. You can see as I'm doing it that the gray marker fades back and leaves a very subtle look. This card features the leaves from Mondo Chrysanthemum, colored in those same BG70 markers I used before. I even put some plaid on the mat under the little sentiment strip. It's subtle, but it adds a tiny bit of serene interest to this serious card. Next, I did another tone on tone, but this time with more contrast, and I did it on a diagonal. I find the easiest way to do that is to tilt the panel so I'm still drawing my line straight down, if you know what I mean. I did pretty well keeping the lines straight and even on my first pass, but on the second one, you'll see that I lost control a bit and one line went quite a bit wonky. Here's how I fixed that. Because I was putting the Mondo flower in the center, I knew I could add another line just halfway through there to fill in that excess space. No one will know that it ends in the middle and doesn't go to the bottom, and the effect of the plaid isn't ruined. This time I embossed the chrysanthemum with white embossing powder, and I blended red, orange, and yellow inks over it. I used the thanks sentiment again, and I embossed it directly on the plaid with white embossing powder. That dark plaid is a dramatic background for the bold, bright flower. So what do you think about this background technique? I'm amazed at how many different looks I could get with just some markers and some paper. And here's all the cards. I'm dying to know what's on your wish list from this release. I have to say I'm loving all the new sentiments and how well they're pairing up with the floral and Sasquatch images. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up below and subscribe to my channel for more inspiration. Product links are below in the description and also on my blog. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.